Absolutely. Do we want to move on to Frost's comments on the offense when he was asked about it in his press conference? It seems to be pretty appropriate to throw that in here.
Yeah. I'll just preface it that I'm sure anybody's seen it on Twitter or Facebook or whatever social media platform you have, but
YouTube.
the kind of
Nope. There it goes.
disrespectful comments that Scott Frost had made toward his offensive staff, and I'd seen, a binary interpretation of it was that, oh, he was absolutely throwing his staff under the bus, and then I was seeing people make comments like it's him clearly saying we on offense, so he's taking accountability for it or something like that, and I guess we'll let you guys decide. What do you think of these comments in full context? And I will read them slowly after he makes them in case you miss out on exactly what he says. But here we go.
We got to get this turned around.
How surprised were you about the physical difference there?
I don't know if there was a big difference, but we certainly didn't dominate. And again, I give their staff a lot of credit too. There were some scheme things that they hit us on offense. I think we're going to have to learn as an offensive staff that you got to be a little creative in this league. So we have some things that we can work on. So we did a lot of good things, but it's got to be more of a complete game.
Yikes.
Yeah. So might have been hard to hear, kind of stumbles over his words a little bit, but essentially the question that was asked was, how surprised were you about the physical difference there, implying between Nebraska and Northwestern? And he essentially says something along the lines of, there's not really much of a big difference, but we certainly didn't dominate. And again, I give their staff a lot of credit. There were some scheme things they hit us on the offense. And then he starts to go off in a different direction with that and goes, I think we're going to have to learn as an offensive staff, you got to be a little creative in this league. And that's kind of the quote right there that kind of blew up all over the interwebs and made a lot of people upset. And I'm one of them. I don't care which way you read into that is an unnecessary comment. And especially coming from Frost. He is the same guy who said, I think the league is going to need to adjust to us. And what happened? He needed to adjust to the league. Frost, before coming to Nebraska, was hailed as an offensive mastermind, and that has not come to fruition even in the slightest bit. And so when he's trying to make a comment to his own offensive staff about that they need to be a little bit more creative, it blows my mind, because what about Northwestern was creative? They weren't doing anything crazy. They weren't doing anything flashy. They weren't doing anything flashy. Exactly. Nothing flashy. Just a straight ass whooping. Just an absolute middle finger to us, daring us to stop them. There wasn't anything flashy about it or creative about it. They were just doing simple, hard-nosed football. And the fact that Frost has the audacity to tell his, offensive staff, we just got to get a little bit more creative. Like, yeah, creative, which we'll get into it, as creative as an onside kick after we're up 11 points because you think that's going to put the nail in the coffin to the game. If that's your idea of creativity, God, I would hate to go to your art show, because it would be miserable experiencing something like that. And yeah, I can see why the interwebs is upset about it for good reason. I don't see an easy way to make that a statement that is good, in essence. Like, that seems like a conversation you have in your locker rooms or your office with your staff. Like, hey, guys, I think we need to be a little bit more creative, and then have them shut you down because that's a dumb idea. But in a press conference, terrible idea.
Yeah, you mentioned there wasn't a whole lot creative about what Northwestern did. He said they did scheme some stuff up, which sounds to me like, oh crap, our defense wasn't really prepped to play. But there really isn't a whole lot of stuff that Iowa, Wisconsin, and even Minnesota do that's all that creative. They line up, they run zone plays right up the gut all the freaking time, and they just figure it's like Novocaine. Eventually, it's gonna work. And it always does. Every game that we play those three teams, it seems like in the fourth quarter, we're the team that's puffing and puffing. We don't know what to do to stop them. And that's exactly the playbook that Northwestern decided to use. They ran the ball, 19, 20 times in a row at the end of that game from the midway through the third quarter on. They hardly attempted a pass because they knew they had us beat at the line of scrimmage. And speaking of line of scrimmage, and speaking of creativity on offense, I don't buy that BS a bit. Not a bit. Don't have to be uber creative. You don't have to have great schemes because the former O-lineman who played with Frost, I believe it's Matt Hoskinson. I don't know 100% for sure. He's a host of a podcast called Beyond the Turf, I think is what it was called. And he was on Hail Varsity a couple weeks ago. And he told Schmitty, or maybe it's another podcast, I don't remember for sure. He told Schmitty, or whoever he was talking to, that there was, when Frost was first hired, he went to him and said specifically, if you're going to win in this league, you have to have a damn good offensive line. And he said if Frost told him, I don't need that great of an offensive line because my schemes are superior to anything that's out there.
Yikes.
Little humility might need to be required if he's going out there and saying that his offensive coaches need to be more creative. It seems to tell me that he doesn't think he should have let go of play calling duties in the first place because he thinks his schemes are superior. That's how I read it. That's simply my point of view, how my eyes and my ears perceive things. And let's be honest, Big Ten is a line of scrimmage league, and we literally got manhandled on the line of scrimmage by a team, as we said earlier, picked to finish dead last in the Big Ten West. So either one of two things is absolutely true at this particular moment of this conversation, Scott. Number one, Northwestern is way better than everybody else out there thinks they are, and they could be. Crying out loud, Pat Fitzgerald is a wizard. He figures out how to pull stuff out of his rear end every even year on the calendar. I'm not sure why that is, but he does it. And, or we're just really awful. And I'm truly not sure what the answer is to those two. Which one I should pick. I think Northwestern's probably better than everybody thinks they are, but I don't think they're that good. And I really don't think we're that bad, but I just don't know. We'll find out probably on September 17th if that was just an anomaly or not. So
yeah, I think that's a good comparison.